I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safe.
Pistols, prayer, and potluck. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 414. Thank you all so much for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week this week. Thank you to all of you who are returning listeners. And welcome aboard, one and all, to those of you who are new to the show. Glad to have you here. Hope you'll stick around for next week's show and many more to come. Go back and check out the back catalog of 413 previous episodes that we have on the website. Do want to give a special thank you and shout out to the members of the Reformation Gun Club who make this show possible. People like Stuart from Pensacola, Florida, Greg from Holly, Michigan, JJ from Toms River, New Jersey, Daniel from Chehalis, Washington, Edwin from Round Lake Beach, Illinois, Dan from Enumclaw, Washington, Frank from Lake City, Michigan, Catherine from Casper, Wyoming, Paul from Sheridan, Wyoming, and our newest member, Peter from Nicollet, Minnesota. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you so much for all of your contributions and your support. Folks, we are listener funded. We don't have any advertising. We don't have any sponsors. We rely on these good people and many others, members of what we call the Reformation Gun Club, who value what we do here and they put their money where their mouth is. And for $36 a year, they get access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content, invitations to our monthly online hangouts, and the satisfaction of knowing they helped make all this possible. And you can join them. Just go to reformationgunclub.com and sign up today. If you do it before Wednesday, I know it's short notice, but if you need to renew, if you have not signed up and you've been thinking about doing it, go ahead and do that, because we have our monthly online hangout coming up. We're going to be recording Wednesday night, and that will be airing on next Sunday for episode 415. So reformationgunclub.com, $36 a year. Come and join us. We would love to have you there. All right, today we are talking about, this may sound strange, but this is something that came to mind as I was, for those of you who are not new to the show, who have been listening the last few weeks, you know that Armed Lutheran Radio has been moving. We've moved from our previous home to somewhere new, and got everything set up in a new studio, which hopefully you can't hear the god-awful vent that is behind me. The air conditioning runs, and it's very loud, so it's making my noise gate work overtime. Hopefully you can't hear it. But for those of you who are parents, have you seen the movie Robots? Now, this has been a while since it came out. And for you younger listeners, you whippersnappers, it's probably before your time. And I thought about this movie this week because, like I said, we've been moving. We downsized, moved to a new house. And when you downsize, of course, you find out just how much crap you've accumulated since you last moved, since you bought your previous home. And as the late George Carlin used to joke, a house is just a place to keep all of your shit. And when you run out of room for your shit, you buy a bigger house so that you can fill it up with more shit. And he wasn't wrong. We are still getting rid of junk that we've accumulated over the years, and we've been in the new house for almost 3 weeks now. And I went through one of the things I did recently. I went through the stuff that we pulled out of our closet from the old house. We had a game room upstairs. We had a closet filled with all sorts of movies and games and stuff. And I, of course, went through all of that and decided what to keep and what to donate and what to throw away. And I came across a copy of the movie Robots. And it was growing up, it was one of my son's favorite movies. When he was small, he'd watch it over and over and over again. And if you don't know anything about it, it stars Tom Hanks, I think, is the main character. Robin Williams is in it as well. And it's set in a world where all of the characters are robots. And Hanks's character grows up idolizing this celebrity on television, this guy called Big Weld, and he's voiced by, I believe it's Mel Brooks. And Hanks's character, he wants to be just like him when he grows up. He doesn't want to follow in his father's footsteps. He wants to go off and become an inventor and work for Big Weld's corporation and create new and exciting inventions that improve people's lives. And Big Weld, voiced, as I said, by Mel Brooks, his motto, one of his mottos is see a need, fill a need. And way back when I was a baby blogger, I think this was before my podcast started, I blogged about this many moons ago. And I think I called this the Big Weld rule for gun ownership. And the idea was basically that you buy guns to fill needs in your life first before you go out and buy the latest and greatest fun range toy. You know, if you need a gun for home defense, it really doesn't make sense to go out and buy a 50 cal Barrett until you fill that need for a home defense gun first. If you need a gun for concealed carry, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go get the latest blaster for competitive shooting. If you're a hunter and you don't have a hunting rifle or shotgun for the specific game that you're intending to hunt, it doesn't make really good sense to go out and add the latest Glock to your collection. And that made me think, I went to way back when, I went to a Glock match in North Carolina once with my son, and we met this guy and his family, and they bragged about how they owned every Glock model that had ever been released at that point. Every single one of them. Never mind the fact that they all look the same, but he had every single one of them. So clearly he had money to burn. But if you don't have money to burn, and who does in this Biden-Harris economy, maybe you can overlook the Big Weld rule if you do have money to burn, because you can buy both the guns you need and the guns you want. Now, you've probably heard, and I think Sergeant Bill has talked about this in the past, and you've probably experienced this yourself, something called GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. You might also refer to it as Gun Acquisition Syndrome. It's that compulsive desire to acquire the latest and greatest, the newest guns, the newest gear when they come out on the market. And like I said, it doesn't just apply to guns. It can be gear. It can be, guitar players like me. We call it guitar acquisition syndrome. You see the latest, the coolest new thing at the store or in an advertisement online, and you find an ad for that piece of gear and you want it. It looks cool. The price is good. You start coveting it. Coveting is probably not the right term to describe it. I mean, coveting implies that there's only one of those things and you desire to get it from someone else. So that's really not what I'm talking about. It's really you desire to purchase it. So forget what I said about coveting. You desire to have it. It's cool. You want it. It looks good in your range. You think about how good it will look in your range bag or on your hip in the holster or out on the range or sitting in the hunting blind or at the hunting camp. And it's easy. Believe me, from experience, it's easy to sort of obsess about it. And as soon as you can afford it, or you've freed up enough room on your credit card, which is even worse, you go out and buy it. But I proposed the Big Weld rule of gun ownership to give you some pause, to make you stop and think about needs and filling those first before you go out and satisfy your wants. So if you need a gun for a specific purpose, whether it be home defense or concealed carry or competition or whatever, it makes sense to prioritize that purchase over something else, like adding a 12th Glock to your collection or going out and buying the latest Staccato when you still need a concealed carry gun. But it doesn't just apply to guns. It applies to all of your gun-related gear. So maybe you do have that gun for home defense, but you don't have a safe to safely store it. Maybe you have a bunch of guns already and your safe is getting a little snug, so to speak, and you're worried that adding one more might make it burst at the seams. Maybe you should upgrade the safe before you go about buying more guns. Maybe you've decided that you want to try your hand at competition, but you don't have the other gear that you need to properly compete. Holsters or extra mag pouches or extra magazines or whatever. Safety gear. Maybe you've decided that you want to go hog hunting. So you get a rifle for hunting hogs, let's say, which is the thing here in Texas and in other parts of the country as well, but especially here in Texas. But if you don't have a decent scope or a thermal scope or proper ammunition for hunting the type of game that you're interested in hunting, you want to go hunting deer, for example, and you've got an AR-15, maybe. But AR-15s aren't really good for hunting deer, at least not in the standard .223 or .556 caliber. So maybe you need to go out and fill the needs for the accessories and the ammunition and that sort of stuff before you go buy the latest hotness. As my friend Jack Simons used to say, don't go buy the latest hotness. Make sure you cover the needs before you go fulfilling the wants. Now, like I said, if money is no object, you can ignore this bit of advice and go do whatever you want. But for normal people, we have to prioritize pretty much everything in life, not just guns. And when you're like me and you're downsizing and space is at a premium, it's even more important. Because 10 years down the road, with that impulse purchase collecting dust in your safe, you might find yourself in my shoes trying to decide what to keep, what to sell, and what to junk. And you might be saying to yourself, what on earth was I thinking about when I bought this? So remember, the Big Weld rule of gun ownership. See a need, fill a need. When it comes to guns and gear, fill those needs first before you go out and satisfy your wants. And that's pretty much all I've got on my mind today. That's what we're thinking about this week. Let me know what you think and how you have approached this subject, and if you've ever considered the what I call the Big Weld rule, how you prioritize your purchases, your gun-related purchases. I'd love to hear from you. Visit our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. Leave us a voice message, and we would love to respond to you in a future episode. If you have any comments or any questions, or if you have a topic that you would like to hear discussed, please leave that message there. Next week is going to be our online hangout for August 2024. And like I said earlier, if you would like to join us, come join the Reformation Gun Club before Wednesday. We'll be recording the show Wednesday night between 8 and 9 p.m. Central. So visit reformationgunclub.com, sign up or renew today, and make sure you get your invitation to come join us on Wednesday night as we record episode 415. All right, that wraps it up for me. Until we get together next week for episode 415, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.